I'll keep you updated. I've been talking to some like art groups today, and I think like maybe some of the stuff you'd say would make some really cool art pieces of like say how the buildings used to stand there and all that kind of stuff and being all vibey and all that sort of thing. So, but we'll see how it all goes because
Okay, bro.
anything could happen. All right, cool. So yeah, we are now recording. Where's my sheet gone? Okay. Okay, so just to start off then, could you tell me a little bit about yourself and just a brief introduction to how you are connected to the Mounts?
Okay, so I'm Mark Ski. I'm a DJ from Northampton. I ended up moving to the Mount because my parents, I used to live in a village, used to live in Blisworth when I was younger. And then when East Hunsbury and all that was built, my parents moved there. And then my dad is from North London and my mum is from originally Liverpool. And basically, they decided that they were going to move back up north. So when they did, I needed to find somewhere to rent. And I found somewhere on Cranston Street in the Mounts, basically.
Okay, how long ago was that?
Oh, mate, now you're talking. So that would have been 90-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's off the top of my head. Yeah, it's got to be around then. Maybe a little bit later than that. God, yeah. Wow. Yeah, I should have researched this before.
No,
I
it's all right.
told
You
you.
don't need specific dates and stuff.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it's just
about.
yeah.
It will be around. I'm trying to think of like. I'm thinking of it in terms of bookings, and I'm thinking of the first like booking I got like when I first started DJing and how old I was, and then when I actually lived there. It might have been actually, yeah, it probably was, yeah, early to mid 90s. Thinking
Okay.
about it.
And are you still in the Mounts now? Have
No,
you moved? No, you
no,
moved,
no,
yeah.
no, no. I lived there for about 3 years, 4 years, but obviously I was still doing events around there even when I wasn't living there.
Yeah. So so when did you first start DJing and getting involved in promoting events within the Mounts? When did that come
Okay,
about?
so actually around there promoting that would have been. Now I've got some flyers here.
Ah, here we go.
There you go. So I
This
can
is the
put you up with these.
research.
None of them have got a year on them, but this is one of them. So top of the town were the first DJ gigs I got there, and I didn't actually promote those. There was another promoter who Mark will know, Chris Harrison. He's passed away now, sadly. He was a DJ and promoter, and he used to promote stuff at the Roadmender. He gave me my first like gigs at the Roadmender, and he was one of the first promoters who were like bringing in international acts. So like 45 King, all them kind of people. They all played at Roadmender back in the day. And then he did some nights at top of the town. He did Karis One there, and he did Smith and Mighty and Massive Attack. I DJ'd at that, right? When Massive Attack
Massive
were just,
attack
yeah,
in the Mounts.
when they were just the sound system. They'd released like they were just coming. They used to be the Wild Bunch, and then they became Massive Attack, and it was Smith and Mighty who were the bigger act then, and Massive Attack, and they were literally like, yeah, they were sound system and DJs. They were doing production, but nothing was really. They weren't, anywhere near where they were now. Pre their first album on a major label. So they did, yeah. So they yeah. So he promoted those events, and I DJ'd at those, and that was around that time. And then the kind of hip hop gigs kind of dried up around there for a while. And then the events I went back and promoted was when the venue at the back that used to be a working men's club became the Soundhaus, which is probably about 10 years after that. That was about, hold on, there's a flyer here with a date on it. There you go, 2002, right? So that's when I was promoting around there with my friend Alton, who I think you've met, and Stan, who you know.
Yeah.
And so we all used to promote up there. Around that era. And we were doing a night. We did a night originally called Groove Connection, and then we did another night there called Do It Fluid. And basically, the kind of whole hip hop scene around then had got a bit fragmented in the sense that you had like the main hip hop nights that were going on in London and stuff were like all like R&B and ragga and all that kind of stuff and hip hop. and they were playing all the West Coast stuff, and we liked all the East Coast boom bap New York stuff. And the only place you could go and hear that was at like the Blue Note in London, when like through the whole acid jazz scene and all that kind of stuff, and outside into the deep funk scene. You go to those nights, and we would be funk nights, and they play all the breaks that all the hip hop sampled, and they play all the hip hop we liked. So we were like, let's do some of them nights locally. So that's when we went to the Soundhaus, because it had just been, it used to be a working men's club, and then it had got bought out by Bill. I can't remember Bill's surname, but he then went on to run the Roadmender for a little while, and then he was looking for venues, promoters, and we were basically like, it's a perfect time for us to do something like this. And that's when we started doing that over about 3 years. And that 2002 might have been like around about the last event we did. But like, yeah, so we were booking like Eddie Pillar from Acid Jazz and Dean Rudd of the BGP record. I'm just going through things. Then we booked some bands on Acid Jazz, and we booked some like hip hop DJs and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, and so at that time, was there anywhere else locally that were doing that kind of thing, or was it just you guys at the Soundhaus?
Yeah, it's just us, because we used to run a night at the Roadmender prior to this, about again late 90s, called Fat Jam, that we ran there for about 2-3 years. And now that whole scene kind of, again, the whole kind of hip hop and the whole kind of that acid jazz kind of scene just slowly, drum and bass came along. That took some of the audience, and the people who were into hip hop and that, they all went into, a lot of them went to R&B and all that kind of stuff, and it wasn't what we were into. So the Soundhaus and all around there was the perfect venue, because it wasn't too big, but it was big enough where you could. And then obviously pub shut at 11:30, so everyone would go to the Bradlaugh, and then literally we'd open doors at 9, and then literally get to like 11:30, and we'd get 400 people through the door, because we could open till 2. So yeah, no one else was really doing it apart from us.
So obviously at that time, then you had the Soundhaus, and you was talking about the top of the town as well in the earlier years. Did those two venues coincide at the same time, or were they in separate eras?
Separate eras, really. So top of the town was really like just a bog standard kind of mainstream nightclub, to be honest. A bit like Ritzer used to be in like St James and all that back in the day. It was that kind of thing, but obviously central to the town. So it had student nights and all that kind of thing. But Chris Harrison, who used to again promote Roadmender. Obviously, Roadmender has always been a sizable venue, and Tops was a bit smaller, probably by about, I don't know the capacity, but Roadmender, I think, was what, about 1,200. Tops isn't that. I'd say Tops was about, I don't know, 800. I don't know off the top of my head. But as a result, if you wanted to put other different acts on, obviously a smaller venue, and it was also, you had the advantage that it was bang in the middle of the town. It was, literally 5 minutes walk from the town centre. I know Roadmender is, but for some reason people perceive that, don't they, as being further out than it is. So like, yeah, that whole era of in the late 80s and early 90s, it was one of those kind of nightclubs where it's just kind of like, you needed shoes to get in and all that kind of business. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So very different kind of vibes between the two venues then.
Soundhaus was like the kind of places me and you do stuff where you with Murmur, with that kind of vibe.
So like, what was the atmosphere like at a Soundhaus night, like during its prime? How would you describe it?
Because it had 3 rooms in it. So you had a main room, and like some venues even now they get I think they get the format of the room wrong. And basically all you need is a door at one end, a bar, and a stage at the other, and a sound system, right? And that's what the Soundhaus is. You'd come through. You'd come through the door. There'd be somebody there, obviously taking the money and the tickets. You'd turn a right, and literally you'd go down a flight of stairs, and that's what it was. Seat in it, bar, sound system, stage. And there was another room to the left that's probably about 100 capacity, and then there was another room downstairs. So you could have different genres in different rooms, doing like, you know what I mean? You could have all, like, we had that in one room, and then one we used to have like broken beat stuff in the other room sometimes. And like there was another night there run by this guy called Adi, called Sound of the Streets, and that was like I don't know how long he ran that for. That was like a pure hip hop night. And again, he used to have that. He used to have like b-boys in one room and then hip hop in the other room. So it's just, well, similar, but like, music for b-boys, more up-tempo stuff in one room, and then kind of like hip hop, 90 BPM, kind of, boom bap hip hop in another room. So that was the good thing about it, because you could open and shut as much of the venue as you wanted. And as a result of that, it was always busy in there. It always felt like it was busy. I might have some pictures somewhere from back then that I'll see if I can find. But it won't. I mean, towards the end, obviously, like you got a finite lifespan in any night, you know what I mean? But like, because of the way music changes and people's tastes, but like, yeah, it was always busy in that bed. And there was another night there called the Birds, which was like a Northern Soul night as well. That used to do pretty well. So there was lots of anything that wasn't mainstream, basically, and people are passionate about music. They would do it there. They would do it there.
So you say, so with the Soundhaus, it kind of went against the grain. It was more underground.
Yes.
So would you say that it had in that area, then it had its own sense of community within that area?
Well, you certainly had like a pipeline from the fact that you would have people who would go, like I say, to the Bradlaugh, and then, or the Racehorse at the time, and then they just all. And as soon as the doors shut on those venues at 11 o'clock, I mean, obviously the Racehorse then was a lot more. Before it was the Black Prince, it was a lot more like goth kind of and rock. I mean, it still has those roots, but that it was more focused on that. But you'd still get people going to those boozers, and then when it got to 11 o'clock, they would just all come to the Soundhaus. So you'd have people who even though weren't even into your night. And this is the difference between kind of then and now. Obviously, there's a lot more competition on a number of levels and lots of media. But as soon as it got 7 o'clock, people were like, well, where can we go? And if you didn't want to put your shoes on, you know what I mean, and go to a mainstream nightclub, you'd go to the Soundhaus.
Yeah, that I know exactly what you mean. It's mainly where I'd like to go anyway, I think.
yeah, exactly that. But it's also, again, it's different because you had literally nowhere else to go. So if anybody who wasn't into mainstream music who didn't want to go down, and each to their own, all that kind of stuff. But anybody who didn't want to do the Bridge Street kind of thing, you'd get people who were goths or whatever coming to all these different nights, because basically they were like, well, it's not necessarily what I'm into, but I know there's going to be something there that's good. And it isn't pop music, and it isn't mainstream, club music. So no matter what's going on there, whether again, I'm trying to think of some drum and bass nights on there, mate. But there was, I can't think of one though. But anything like that wasn't mainstream was going on there really, up to a capacity. I don't know the capacity, but unless it wasn't big enough to fit in Roadmender.
Okay, so it sounds to me like the Soundhaus at that time was a massive draw that brought people from other areas into the Mounts.
Yeah.
So what kind of role do you think that played in sort of making it a social area, like creative space? Like, what did it do for the Mounts, and how would you like compare that to today now that it isn't there?
I mean, mate, that's a tough one. I mean, in the sense that you got people into different music and of different cultures, all going to different events musically. I mean, like I say, I live around there, and Dawn, obviously, my partner, she used to live around there. So when the night's finished, where I used to live, I used to have a cellar, and I used to have like a sound, like not a sound system, but a big set of speakers in there. So literally like 5 foot high, custom built. So I haven't got them anymore. And I swapped it. Like I had a pair of turntables that somebody wanted off me, and I swapped them for the speakers. But anyway, right. So I had them in my cellar, and so after a lot of those nights, loads of people have piled back to mine, and so there's that. There's that side of it. But generally, with regards to the nights themselves, again, because it was so broad and diverse, what was going on there, from, like I say, hip hop to drum and bass to acid jazz to northern soul to deep funk to I don't know if there's any, I can't think there's any house music stuff there. But as a result of that, and a result of the fact that competition was less, you were getting different people into different music, going down to different events, simply because we'll just go down the Soundhaus. It was like that. I will just go down the Soundhaus. What's going to be on? It's it's not. It's going to be something that isn't commercial, and it's bound to be all right, even if you weren't into it.
Yeah, And you speak as well about obviously a lot of people coming from the Bradlaugh at certain
Yeah,
times, coming to the Soundhouse, and there being that link with the road mender at times as well.
yeah.
Were there any other spots within the mounts at that time that kind of linked in with the Soundhouse? Any like hangouts, other venues, anything like that?
You know what? It was mainly the Brad, because the Brad was relatively new then, and
Yeah.
it was again the Racehorse, because I used to go to both. Sometimes I go to the Brad, sometimes I go to the Racehorse, because I used to be in a band and all that, and we used to rehearse down there. So I'd be equally at home in either of those venues. So it's just like that's where I used to hang out. And you meet like, and also the thing with the Racehorse is, as it was at Prince now, as it was when you got a lot of musicians hanging around there. So
Hmm.
it's like um, you'd meet loads of different people. Do you know what I mean? From different bands into loads of different stuff, and then that would feed back in. That would feed back into it.
It's interesting. The lady I was speaking to today who lived there in the 50s,
Mm.
she spoke a lot about the racehorse as well and saying that there was a massive link between that area to go into that spot because it was right on the periphery and there was a lot less stuff in between it than there is now.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you find that at the time as well, that it was sort of maybe more accessible or it was just a part of that beaten track?
I mean, I think the thing with the Bradlaugh is the fact that the Bradlaugh's audience, or market, should I say, um, hasn't really changed that much. It's a similar kind of demographic that goes there. And you could say that about the racehorse as it was, but because it was always built around live music, you
Hmm.
got a lot broader range of people in there who
Yeah.
were into a lot less mainstream stuff. So that was the difference. So you would see people in the Bradlaugh, and you go in there. We generally go in there like an hour before just to say, "Oi, what's on the salad? We're on the salad," just to promote it a little bit. But it's just like it was a different audience, and you'd get some of them in and they'd like it, and some of them would come back. But for a lot of them, for a lot of those, well, not loads, but there was a considerable amount of that footfall. I think at the time that was just kind of like, it's 11:30, it's only over there, we'll go. And you could have been putting on whatever, but that's fine because you had all the kind of racehorse people who were a little bit deeper into whatever music they were into, regardless of what genre it was. And you get all those people together, and that's what makes music events great, when you get that mishmash of different people, or there's somebody you've never been. You must know this, Connor. When you get people who've never been to a night like yours before, or aren't really into the genre of music you play, and then they go, it's like they've found the pot of gold at the bottom of the rainbow.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then when
Yeah.
you see them come back,
Yeah, I've seen a few people over the years that I feel like I've been a big part of their like conversion.
yeah,
And then
exactly.
sometimes you're like, oh God, I wish they shouldn't have ever met me. Now they're so deep in the rabbit hole.
But that's good, man. That's good.
But
That's
yeah,
that's what
it's
music. That's what music should be doing. It should be bringing people together, not dividing them or making them compete with each other. It should be, everyone
it's
coming
it.
together when it's celebrating something.
And yeah, you like because everyone has their own journey when it comes to these things.
Yeah,
Like when they first hear that kind of music, like with me, I've it's kind of always been there. Like with yourself, you've kind of found your own way, but people don't necessarily find their sound until like a lot later on in life. And
that's it.
if it's not for these kind of venues, like having a part in that journey, then it might not happen. So
Exactly that.
it's
Exactly
a big
that.
contributing factor.
Yeah. Well, look how me and you met. It would have been at a music event.
Yeah, that's it. I
Do you
don't
know what
think
I
I'd
mean?
know anyone if it wasn't for music
Well,
these
that's what I'm
days.
saying. That's what I'm saying. I look at most of my friends and the people I grew up with, and the people who signed me around, like people who are friends of mine, like stand up. Everybody I met pretty much is through music. Pretty much, with the odd friend or whatever, and but I met most people through music.
How many, like, what percentage would you put on of like relationships made around the Soundhouse that you know today?
Oh wow, man.
Obviously, not an
Yeah.
exact percentage, but
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me think of the people. It was still okay. Probably 20%,
so,
25%.
and that's just from like one venue in the Mounts,
Well,
and
the
it's
collaboration of
yeah,
of that in the mounts, and those people who came through from
Yeah.
the Brad and that whole triangle of kind of, around there.
It's it's mad, isn't it, when you actually think
Yeah,
about these things.
yeah, it's
Um,
crazy.
so obviously now like Soundhouse isn't there, like the top of the town had sort of gone as well. Like how do you think the sort of music scene in the Mounts has changed over the years to how it is now?
Well, I think speaking from, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, like for the lab, for example, is a hub for a number of, musically, culturally, um, from a community point of view, it plays an important role there, definitely. But it's just so much harder for venues, not only after the pandemic, but even like one of the reasons we stopped promoting at the Soundhouse was because the late license came in and we saw 300 people just go. So you know what I mean,
Mm.
off our door, and it's just like we were never in it. As when you go into these things, when you're promoting and you're doing it at the level that we were doing it at, you're not really doing it because you think, oh, I can make loads of money. You're just like, let's put on something good that we would want to go to, and that's exactly what inspired us. We were going to London all the time. We're like, we could do this locally. Let's do it locally. That was the impetus to do it. Um, but the minute the late license kicked in, we were like, you arrogantly maybe you're under this misconception where you think, but people are all into this for the music, so they're going to come. But you soon find out that at that time, anyway, I'm not saying it's still the same, but at that time it was like, really, it was a combination of the music, the fact that they knew loads of other people who were going there, and the license. So if you can have the license and some of the people who were going to go still stay in the Bradlaugh, then, and a lot of nights then struggled after that. As soon as that I remember it was after I think it was 2001, was it? When they granted the late light, and literally the next month we were like, okay, and then we did the January, which is always going to be flat, and then we did February, and I was just like, we've lost 300 people, and that's like, I don't mind taking the odd hit here and there, but I'm going to lose money. I'm not going to lose loads of money just to say, look, I'm doing a night. It's just like, if it starts getting to the point where, we're losing lots of money. So that's why we kind of took our foot off the pedal a little bit, gave it another one, and then it's kind of like, so it's hard. And then since then, obviously, you've had, venues are in competition on a number of levels. So it would be nice to see if there was some way of recreating something similar, in the sense that, like I said, you had the Soundhouse, and the draw was it was the only real non-mainstream music, underground music venue that was open till 2. So the minute the license, the minute the pub shut at 11, you just had this pipeline straight to that venue. So it'd be nice if there could be, whereas you've got the Racehorse and you've got the Brad and you've got the Lab, some way of creating some kind of synergy between those three in order to, keep an active feed of punters into different music to service all those venues.
So this is going slightly off piece now, but from what you're saying, in the Soundhouse triangle, if you like where you've got
Don't fly a plane over it.
No, you've got the Charles Bradlaugh, the Lab, and what was the other one you said? Sorry, there was
the Tops, wasn't there? Was the Bradlaugh, there was the Lab, there were the Bradlaugh, Tops, and the Lab then wasn't obviously the kind of venue it was now. It was the Labour Club, wasn't it? And it was a bit more. It was a bit more of a drinking venue. There wasn't really any live music or anything like that, from what I remember. But it was the Racehorse, which was the Black Prince. It was the Bradlaugh, and it was the Soundhouse. Really.
Yeah. So would you say, like, it's interesting you say that. So do you think that maybe as time went on, the Lab kind of inherited some of that underground energy and and took some of that on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that.
That is interesting. Yeah, because I've always just seen the Lab kind of as it is today, if you like. So seeing how that has developed into that from places like the Soundhouse closing is interesting. Yeah, what I was gonna say is if you wanted to kind of recreate the three rooms of the Soundhouse,
Mm.
you could kind of have like a, you get like the walkabout events where they use multiple venues. You could replicate the three rooms with the three venues that are in that peninsula. So you could have the Charles Bradlaugh, the Prince, and the Lab to recreate the three rooms at the Sound House.
You
But it's a
could.
it's a bit of a walk. It is a bit of a walk.
And also the scale of the audience, the audience has reduced, and certainly the Prince. I mean, the Bradlaugh, obviously, they have the state of it
Mm.
goes on there, doesn't it? So they have those. Is it Courtney Jackson does those? I can't remember.
Yeah, something like
So
that.
so you got that. You got you guys doing, and all the other different. I mean, if anything, I would say the spiritual successor to the Soundhouse is probably the Prince,
Mm.
based
It's
upon the amount
interesting.
of different genres of music. When you think that you've got you guys doing drum and bass there, you still got its rich rock heritage. You've got, you know, hip hop nights going on there again, live music.
Mm.
You've got it's quite broad, but again, the scale of the audience isn't what it used to be. You're in a different time when everything's open till whenever. Harder to get, not the no, it's harder to get people who aren't just massively passionate about a particular music. I don't know if you've seen this at your events, but I remember we used to do, even at the Road End, we used to do stuff down at Fat Jam, and there'd be this guy used to come down by himself all the time, and I'd be like, and we'd end up chatting to, because I'd be like, where are your mates? He'd be like, oh, they don't want to come to this. They've all gone wherever.
Fair
It's
play
just
to him.
like, you know, it's hard.
Yeah, no, things definitely have changed.
Mm.
Definitely. It's definitely a lot harder to recreate that energy
Yeah,
and get people
absolutely.
in. Um, so yeah, one of the things that is going to come out of the project as well is the Heritage Group. They do heritage walks around the area,
Okay,
and it's very much like quite historical at the moment.
okay,
What they want to do is they want to bring in some of the stories that we capture and
okay.
sort of include them in the heritage walks. Like if you were to incorporate the Sound House
Mm,
into one of these walks,
mm.
like how do you think it could be represented?
Okay. Well, it would be as a non-mainstream music live and club venue, I suppose. I think we used to do stuff in the day, I'm not the guy to speak to about that. I seem to remember Bill who used to run it, and I don't even know what happened. Well, I kind of do. Billy used to run it. I think he was an ex-policeman, and then he retired, and then he went to run that, and then he ran the Roadrunner for a little while, and then that he left that, and that's when obviously Dave and Nat started running it. But I think he did used to do some other things in the day. He used to try and hire it out in the day and get community things going, but I don't know exactly what they were, mate. But if I was to say what it was, it used to be, like I say, that venue used to be a working men's club, and they sold the lease, and then he bought the lease, and that's why it became what it was. But he was very open to, like I say, he wasn't really. He just wanted punters through the doors. Most venues do, but he was always willing to give people a go,
Mm.
and that was the beauty of it, because as a result of that, I think even he was surprised sometimes. As long as he could pay his security's bar staff, and he made a bit of money beyond the bar, even if it wasn't absolutely heaving in there, if it looked busy, he was all right about it, and he was always very honest, which, having dealt with a lot of different venue owners over the years, that's not a trait that is often you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
depends on the venue, and it depends on the owner, you know what I mean? But it's just like, he was always like, look, this is how much this is going to cost and whatever else. So I kind of respect him for that. But it was more, nothing really happened then by design, if you see what I mean. It was more the fact that it was a combination of, obviously, music scenes being what they were and what was going on then. A lot of non-mainstream stuff going on, a venue that was willing to support them, and a licensing policy that meant pubs had to shut at 11:30. So
Yeah.
all those combinations made it work. So I suppose if you were walking around, yeah, I suppose I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a venue, isn't it? But it
Mm.
certainly did. It certainly put on live music and also club nights with equal success. And
Mm.
as a result of that, the Northampton music scene, and I think most of the people, who you can speak to who went there, regardless of what we into, would look on it fondly. I hope.
That's cool. That's good. And you said about like the guy that run it, he sort of gave people a chance.
Yeah,
Would you say that that place has sort of helped shape the music industry in the area as it is
yeah.
today? Has it given a lot of people opportunities?
Um, I don't know if opportunities is the right word, but they certainly gained experience. You
Okay.
know, yeah. They certainly, I mean, I promoted at the Roadmender before then, so I kind of with Alton, and another guy called Angus who used to do it, who is from London, who was a student here at the time. So I'd had a bit of experience then. So going to the Soundhaus for me was just like honing my craft a little bit with regards to that. But certainly a lot of other promoters, and it also brought some promoters in from out of town as well. Um, certainly the Buzz guys, when they used to do their thing there, I think they're from Wellingborough,
Mm.
and so yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly from our point of view, we tried to put on DJs there that had never played locally before. So from that point of view, we were bringing. It wasn't just like us spinning a few records. It was like obviously we warmed up and did whatever, but we were always bringing in names who we wanted in our own backyard. Like, no
Yeah.
need to go all the way down there. Look, it's up the road, and it's
Yeah.
£6. So it's just like, from that point of view, I suppose a lot of people got to see and hear a lot of stuff they wouldn't have. And from a promotion point of view, and from a DJ point of view, we always tried to put in. We always used to switch up loads of DJs all the time. So obviously, I was a resident with my friend Alton, but like we always the lower slots or whatever. It was like the main event us and whatever. We always bringing in DJs. Like I used to went to university in Preston. I've got a mate up there, and I'd be like, "Come and DJ down here." I used to know someone in Southport. Come and DJ down. So from that point of view, we'd bring loads of people and local people in and just fill the slots and rotate it every week. So it wasn't always just like, the ski show or whatever. It was kind of like, let's stack it up with loads of
Yeah.
people and give them experience. So from that, yeah, we certainly like tried to give as many different people, both from an audience point of view, things they hadn't seen or heard before, and from a talent point of view locally, give as many opportunities as we can. I know for a fact there's at least a couple of people who DJ'd there who'd never like they just said, "Oh, I'd love to DJ, but I buy all these records. You put me on," and we're like, "Yeah, all right." That kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And would you say that the Mounts now, in terms of obviously you're talking about it being a massive like underground hub at points over the years, would you say that it still offers that to the town? Because you've got obviously the lab, the Garibaldi, the like the Bradlaugh and stuff as well. Would you still say that it's providing the town with that similar sort of energy in a way?
Oh, so would you class the Gary as the Mounts then?
Yeah, so the Garibaldi's in the Mount, yeah. So
Okay,
it goes
I forgot
from
about that, which is terrible. Yeah, they play a massive part in it. The Garys play a
yeah,
massive part in it. Absolutely massive. Now they yeah, they are definitely part of that. Well, I suppose you could say that the Lab and the Gary from that point of view are the successors, because people generally pop in the Lab and go down to the Gary, don't they?
because it's open later.
Well, there you go.
That's what it all comes down to.
Well, it does, mate. Unfortunately. Well, it comes down to more than that. But
Yeah, it
it's
does, yeah.
difficult times, man, isn't it? It's difficult times, man. People haven't got as much disposable income and everything, so
No.
it's hard for anybody. But yeah, the Gary's totally part of that legacy, without question. I mean, the events that you guys did down there, and like, I know Tom's always trying to put on. It's become more of a live music venue, hasn't it? In the last
Yeah.
few years, they do stuff on Saturday afternoons and all that. And do they do? Is it live bands on Fridays and DJs on Saturdays there now? Because
Yeah,
I
it
haven't been
is,
down there
yeah.
for a little while, mate. Because I've just been too busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely part of that legacy, without doubt. And all credit to Tom and the team down there for everything they've done, everything he's done to that venue to make it what it is. But nothing but respect for those guys.
Yeah, because looking at it now, that like I still see the Mounts as being that sort of like underground hub in Northampton.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't know
is.
if that was always the case, but it sounds like it has been, and it's just kind of shifted slightly in how it operates,
Yeah,
but it's still got that underground energy in the
yeah,
like the locality, if you like.
yeah.
So yeah,
It's
no,
great.
that is interesting. That is interesting. I can't think of anywhere else in Northampton that has that.
No, when
Like,
it comes to the smaller grassroots kind of stuff, and the venues that are willing to, and the lab comes into this as well. The venues that are willing to give performance opportunities to up and coming artists who maybe never have performed before. Um, definitely, it's definitely between those two, the lab and the Gary. I think people earn their chops at them two before they even consider even the Prince. The Prince has got quite a legacy with regards to the bands that have played there from when it was the Racehorse and stuff. So for a lot of people, it's still kind of this, this oh, I'd love to play there kind of thing. But when you're that artist who just wants a break and wants to build a bit of a following then it's between the Gary and the lab, without doubt,
mm,
without doubt.
definitely. Yeah, the Mounts is the place to be.
Yeah, man. Well, if you don't want to, you want something, yeah, like I say, a bit more authentic. Totally that.
Sound. And is there anything else that you'd like to share about your connection to the Mounts music or not? Obviously, you lived there and all this kind of stuff. Anything else that crops up?
Uh, I mean, again, like I say, it was like obviously I was a lot younger then, and it was for real, and yeah, it was just a really busy kind of and creative kind of period. And then long after that, like I basically I moved away from Northampton for a while after that, and was doing different stuff, and then went to uni and all sorts of bits, and then came back. Um, but yeah, it was there was a buzz around that area, and it was even though when people tried to do similar things, and I'm excluding the Roman from this because obviously it's a different size and it's a different scale, but anything like I say that was a a bit left field that needed a bit of help to grow, then and creatively new, it would happen around there at those venues.
Yeah, it's still the case. It's weird, isn't it?
Well, this is
Still
it.
the
I mean,
case.
there's a
Yeah,
lot. There's all as you well know, mate. All these art forms and
yeah.
everything. There's lots of things that trigger them to grow into what they are, and it's not just about. There's the environment that creates the artist to want to do what they want to do, and then there's a support structure around that, which the Gary and the lab, and later on the Prince and the Roman are. But certainly when you're starting out, like I say, you'd have to be pretty. If you were just started DJing now, you wouldn't just go and knock on the door of the Roman and go, here's my here's my SoundCloud link. Do you know what I'm
I
saying?
just,
But
I'd, if I
you
started
would
DJing now, I'd spam it in their inbox with no context.
but you'd go to the Gary or the lab, and you'd walk past there one day and you'd hear someone playing drum and bass, and you'd peek through the door and go, okay, for my first gig, this isn't too intimidating. I reckon I could do all right in here. And
Mm,
that's what those venues offer. And
yeah,
an audience that are open to that and want to support it. It's where it all grows.
yeah, it is. No, I think that's a good point, a good place to end it, I reckon. That sounds good, man. That was really cool. The same as all of these. I've got no idea what direction it's going to take, and they've all been so enjoyable.
Oh, good man. Well, that's it
Like
then.
that
Now
it's
you know what you're doing it.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I've yeah, it's been a good one to be fair. But yeah, that like just to hear like how you talk about it, and I can fully imagine it. Obviously, it's before my time, but
Hmm.
then I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, it's still like that, and there's nowhere else like that in Northampton. Like I'm trying to think, like there's no other
It's
like pockets of the town.
it's just the scale. That's what's changed. The scale
Yeah,
has changed
yeah, it's just
twice. Once because of the licensing, and secondly because of the pandemic. I mean, regardless of what everyone says, venues are still feeling that. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. The venues are like they're seriously struggling, and I think if the Soundhouse was still a thing today,
It wouldn't
it,
be
no, exactly, yeah. Even if with
too
that's
big.
it. It's the building's still there though, isn't it? It's now like a Moldovan church,
Yeah, yeah, it is still there.
but
It is still there. I think they were
yeah,
talking of knocking it down. Were talking about that, but
yeah,
obviously, like I say, they. I suppose if a church bought it, it's harder to knock it down
mm,
because it serves a different community purpose, and then if it's got religious attachments to it, it's harder to get a compulsory purchase order to knock down a church.
yeah. Nah, that's it. Well, I'll go back through everything as well, and I'll edit it all and that. I don't know what the plans are in terms of like putting out the interviews or anything. Um, it's more about kind of going over like the themes of what people are coming up with and
No,
parts of the
that's fine, man.
stories
That's
and all
fine.
this sort of stuff. But all the ones I've done so far, like you could even make it a podcast series if I tightly edit it, some of it together. But anything like that, I'll keep you updated. I
Bro,
think
I was
that
just doing it because like you put it out there and I live there and I thought it'd help you out.
yeah, no, sound honest. I've had such a range of people get in touch, and I was like, you could probably do this forever.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think the goal is I'm kind of getting it to a point where the Heritage Committee can continue doing this,
Yeah.
and like there's a way for them to gather stories and a method of putting it out and using it. Because at the moment they're not necessarily like sure of how these things work. So I've been setting up like facilitation sheets and all this kind of stuff and how they can monitor it and get the stories and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
So
it's been interesting.
I can scan some of these if you want them. I can scan some of these for you, and I'm sure I've got some pictures from back then of
That
just a crowd in the Soundhouse. I'm sure I've got some. They'll all be like obviously no Polaroid, but yeah, but I've got them. I've got them. So
that'd
I can
be
get
honestly, mate,
yeah.
that'd be amazing. That would
Okay,
be amazing.
no worries. Give me a
Yeah.
few days.
Yeah,
Right.
wicked. What have you got on rest of the weekend?
What have we got on this weekend? I need to catch up on some beats, mate. To be honest, I'm trying. I find that like if I'm DJing a lot, I don't make enough I don't make enough music. I go through phases. So I'm like when I'm not DJing as much, I'll get into production mode, and I'm doing my third album now.